Sid, great to have you. And we've been talking a lot, not just in this show, but throughout the day about, the so-called great rotation from the US to Europe. I've got this chart here, #BTV 7334. The stock 600 surpassing the S&P 500 for the first time since the US election in US dollar terms. The indices pretty much neck and neck, though, as the Trump trade has perhaps deflated a little bit this month. You've been talking to a lot of analyst strategists, breaking down the charts. This rotation into Europe, is it going to continue?
Well, it feels that way if you believe strategists. They very much increased their share price targets. They've increased their targets for earnings. At the same time, European equities benefit from base effects. That is to say that investors really haven't been that bullish on European stocks relative to the US. Same time, the US is looking pretty pricey. And in fact, over the past week, we've actually seen inflows into European equity funds increase, and perhaps to the highest that they've been for over a year. And before that, we've seen a lot of investors with a lot of dry powder very much reluctant to increase their allocation to European equities. So this looks like it's a theme that could run because strategists have just turned bullish in the last month or so, but investors seem to now be waking up to the relative valuation story.
Yeah, what was it? $1.5 billion of inflows into European equities this past week versus outflows from the US. I'm wondering, though, is that supported by the fundamentals in terms of the economics performance in Europe? I mean, we had Eurozone inflation data just today coming in a little weak and perhaps supporting those ideas that actually the ECB shouldn't be tapering quite yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's the big question. There's been a lot of earnings disappointments over the past couple of years, and a lot of analysts who have said that, the time now is for European stocks, have really been caught out by relentless political volatility as well as economic volatility. So on a year-on-year basis, however, core inflation has risen, but on a cyclical month-on-month basis, the base effects from commodity price inflation has eased, and therefore there really is a question mark about whether the ECB will moderate much further its pace of monthly asset purchases. But in general...
Yeah, continue.
Yeah, in general, we've seen investors turning more bullish on the outlook for price inflation that should boost corporate earnings and spur investment. But at the same time, Eurozone disinflationary fears haven't gone away. So yeah, there's a lot of investor skepticism.
Okay. With all of these inflows, Sid, into Europe, and we've been hearing it as well on the show, is there a danger if something does come to pass, whether it's a political risk that emerges or, another kind of risk, is there a danger of rapid outflows?
There certainly is, and we saw that in 2016. But I think a lot of strategists are relatively bullish that the baseline projection is that French political risk will recede. We saw the Dutch election, and that was seen as a bellwether for the prospects of populist parties. And obviously, we've seen stability in that sense. So, of course, there's always that risk. But thanks to base effects, the fact that investors are pretty confident for corporate earnings but haven't actually put that much money to work thus far relative to the dry powder that they have, then that suggests it's actually a supportive environment. And if there is a step back from risk appetite, thanks to base effects, it might not be as strong in terms of reversal compared to last year.
Sid, I want to ask you briefly about Russia. We got growth data earlier, and I know that in the past you've spoken to the central bank governor, Elvira Nabiullina, as I have too myself. Just wanted to show you this chart of the diverging trend, Russian stocks sinking this year, whereas EM equities in general have posted their biggest rally since 2012. In the EM space, what's catching your attention in terms of where this rally is going to go?
Well, the Russia story is not necessarily about stocks. If you're bullish on Russia, you buy the currency, you buy dollar debt obligations. So we've seen a lot of investors be very bullish on Russian stocks. Sorry, on Russian debt, obviously.
Yeah.